Hi, this is Dr. Gregory Sadler. I'm a professor of philosophy and the president and founder of an educational consulting company called Reason.io, where we put philosophy into practice. I've studied and taught philosophy for over 20 years, and I find that many people run into difficulties reading classic philosophical texts. Sometimes it's the way things are said or how the text is structured. But the concepts themselves are not always that complicated, and that's where I come in. To help students and lifelong learners, I've been producing longer lecture videos and posting them to YouTube. Many viewers say they find them useful. What you're currently watching is part of a new series of shorter videos, each of them focused on one core concept from an important philosophical text. I hope you find it useful as well. Judith Jarvis Thomson's article, The Trolley Problem, begins by considering an earlier treatment of similar moral dilemmas in Philippa Foot's The Problem of Abortion and the Doctrine of the Double Effect, in which trolley cases, at least one of them is being brought up, in order to make sense out of the permissibility or the moral requirement to do or not to do something that has to do with causing death. And Thomson thinks that Foot is very helpfully raising some issues, but that her solution is flawed. And that's where she really begins the article. So we should take a look at what Thomson has to say about this. There are two original problems that she considers at the beginning of her paper. Obviously, Foot had other examples or cases for us to consider, but these are the ones that she's primarily interested in so that she can make an argument about where we ought to direct our attention. So one of these she calls trolley driver, and the other one she calls transplant. And if you look at both of these on a surface level analysis, they seem to have a lot in common. Both involve a choice between one person dying or 5 people dying. And if you put it at that level of abstraction without providing any details, then it's pretty straightforward. We would maximize utility. That is, we would try to maximize benefit, minimize harm. 5 deaths is worse than 1 death, so we're going to side for 1 pretty much any time. But the way in which the deaths are brought about or caused plays an important role. So in the trolley driver, she says, here's the case. The trolley rounds a bend. You're the driver of it. There are 5 track workmen who have been repairing the track. The track goes through a little bit of a valley at that point, and the sides are steep, so you must stop the trolley if you are to avoid running the men down. You step on the brakes don't work. So you're going to hit these 5 work people and kill them. And you can turn the trolley off onto a spur of track leading off to the right, but unfortunately, there's another track workman on that spur of track. He cannot get off the track either, so you're going to kill him if you turn the trolley onto him. Is it morally permissible for you to turn the trolley? That's the original trolley driver thing. You are the driver, and you have to decide, go right or continue on. Kill 1 person, kill 5 people. The other case that she brings up is transplant. And she says, you are a surgeon, a truly great surgeon. Among other things you do, you transplant organs, and you are such a great surgeon that the organs you transplant always take. At the moment, you have 5 patients who need organs. 2 need 1 lung each, 2 need a kidney each, the 5th needs a heart. If you don't get these organs today, they will all die. If you find organs for them today, you can transplant the organs, they will all live. Where to find these organs? The time is almost up when you find out a young man who has just come into your clinic for his yearly checkup has exactly the right blood type and is in excellent health. You have a possible donor. All you need to do is cut him up and distribute his parts among the 5 who need them. You ask, but he says, sorry, I deeply sympathize, but no. Would it be morally permissible for you to operate anyway? And in these cases, people, according to Foot, she says, rather implausibly, that everybody she knows says it would be morally permissible for the trolley driver to go off the track and kill the one person rather than killing the five, and that everybody says it would be morally impermissible for the transplant surgeon to carry out this operation against the wishes of the young man brought in who has explicitly said no, and killing him in the process. Putting aside the implausibility of this absolute consensus on these issues, the question that arises then for Thomson is, well, why are these cases so different from each other? She says, here is Mrs. Foot's problem. Why is it the trolley driver may turn his trolley, though the surgeon may not remove the young man's lungs, kidneys, and hearts? In both cases, one will die if the agent acts, but 5 will live who would otherwise die, a net saving of 4 lives. So if you take a very strict utilitarian approach to it, leaving aside any other side considerations like the horror at carving up people who come in for checkups or anything like that, and you just consider it in terms of maximizing utility and saving lives, well, then it seems kind of a no-brainer. Why are these cases different? Is it squeamishness? Is it some irrational thing on the part of human beings? And Foot's solution to this is to say that, look, the surgeon's choice is between operating, in which case he kills one, and not operating, in which he lets 5 die, and killing is surely worse than letting die. So this distinction between killing a person, letting a person die, is an essential part of this. And Thomson says, okay, we can come up with 2 basic principles here that are operative in these cases for Foot. And what are they? The first one is that killing one is worse than letting 5 people die. And we'll come back to that in just a moment. The other one is that killing 5 is worse than killing 1. And, that one seems pretty straightforward. You don't have to be a utilitarian to buy into that, do you? Killing 5 people is worse than killing 1, all things being equal. The question about killing 1 is worse than letting 5 people die, that's probably a more controversial idea. Some people might say, well, like, again, a strict utilitarian would say, it's all death. It's not really mattering that much what the agency of this is, but I think most people would go along with saying, if we raised the number to like 100,000, killing 1 person versus 100,000, okay, then we might get different results. But killing 1 versus letting 5 die, okay. So she says here in the piece, here we go. The surgeon must refrain from operating. Why? Because killing 1 is worse than letting die. By contrast, the trolley driver's choice is between turning the trolley, in which case he kills 1, and not turning the trolley, in which case he does not let 5 die. He positively kills them. He's the one driving the trolley that runs them over. So the question is, which of these 2 basic ideas is going to apply within the case? And this is what allows us to differentiate them apart from each other. This is the solution that Foot provides, according to Thomson. Thomson then raises a problem, and this is where we get the now traditional trolley problem, where you have what she calls the bystander at the switch. Instead of you being the trolley operator, you're just some person who's wandered by and you see the trolley out of control bearing down on 5 people. You see a switch that you can flip, and if you do flip that switch, it directs the trolley onto the other set of tracks, and there's 1 person who's going to die there. Nowadays, we see people more or less tied down to the tracks rather than just being work people and all that. And she says that in this case, we would actually think about it somewhat differently. She says, what to do? here's the switch which you can throw, thereby turning the trolley yourself. You will kill one if you do. But I should think that you may turn it all the same. It's morally permissible. She says, my own feeling as an ordinary person, a mere bystander, may intervene in such a case. If you see something, a trolley, a boulder, an avalanche heading towards 5, and you can deflect it onto 1, it really does seem that all other things being equal, it would be permissible for you to take charge, take responsibility, and deflect the thing, whoever you may be. Now, why is this so important? Is this just a little tiny change in it? Not exactly, because what this means, according to Thomson, is that the bystander in the trolley problem now becomes much more similar to the surgeon in Transplant, who is killing one, or who's not to kill one, right? In the trolley problem that's been transformed into bystander at the switch, they are killing one, and they're doing that instead of letting 5 die. If you're at the switch and you don't do anything, you're not causing the death. You're not running them over. The trolley is running them over. You have the option to flip the switch. Why is it okay in the case of the person with a trolley, or as she says, in other similar situations like boulders, avalanches, things along those lines? Why is that okay, but it's not okay for the surgeon to take this young man and dissect him and transplant the organs? Isn't it really the same thing? And she says, well, this raises a key problem for us. And she does have a few other considerations, right? She says we can take a moral risk in doing these things. We don't actually know all the case. It could be that the 5 are not track workmen at all, but mafia members in workmen's clothing, and they've tied the one workman to the right-hand track. And she says, I don't have to worry about these possibilities because, moral risk is the same whether you're a trolley driver or a bystander. And she says, we might also want to ask ourselves, what exactly is the difference between what the driver would be doing if he failed to turn the trolley? The driver is driving the trolley into the 5, but what does that actually consist in? He's just sitting there and he has no control over it. That comes to seem a bit more like killing 1 to save 5, doesn't it? Then she says, I don't mean to make much of the fact that about what the driver's driving his trolley into the 5 would consist in. It seems to me right to say if he does not turn the trolley, he does drive the trolley into them, but it's not easy to say what makes it so. By contrast, if the bystander doesn't throw the switch, he doesn't drive a trolley into anybody. But the bystander may intervene. And she says, if he can, if that's morally permissible, there is serious trouble for Mrs. Foot's thesis. It's plain that if the bystander throws the switch, he causes the trolley to hit the 1 and thus kills the 1. It's equally plain that if the bystander does not throw the switch, he does not cause the trolley to hit the 5. He does not kill the 5. He merely fails to save them. He lets them die. So in a case like this, it seems like killing 1 isn't worse than letting 1 die, according to what most people would say, our moral intuition. So what should we make of this? That's the question driving this piece forward.